The air in Elise Laurent's apartment thickened, heavy with the scent of dust, jasmine, and old paint. Taehyung turned slowly toward the voice, his pulse thundering in his chest. For a moment, the dim light from the street lamp cut through the darkness, and his breath caught Jin. Standing by the doorway was Kim Seokjin, older, leaner, his once polished aura replaced by something sharper, harder. His eyes, usually warm with quiet humor, now carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. It's been a long time, Taehyung. Taehyung took a hesitant step forward. I thought you disappeared. Jin's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. That's what they told you. That I wanted out. But the truth was, I had to vanish. The room buzzed with the hum of a broken neon sign outside. You're part of this, Taehyung whispered. The curators, you know about them. Jin's gaze drifted to the butterfly painting. I know more than you want to. Elise was trying to protect you, Tai. You got too close without even realizing it. I don't understand, Taehyung said, frustration seeping into his voice. Why me? Why not someone else? Because you were the perfect symbol, Jin replied quietly. The world sees innocence in your face. Purity in your art. They wanted that image. They built it, amplified it, and then buried what didn't fit their vision. He paused, his jaw tightening. They used you to test how far influence could go. How much belief could shape reality. The words struck him like a slap. You think everything, every connection, every song, every person I reached, was a manipulation? Jin's expression softened. No. That's what made you dangerous. You meant it. You believed in it. And that made them afraid. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the fragile glass panes. Taehyung felt his world unraveling, fame, art, identity, all tangled in a web that stretched far beyond music or stardom. He looked at Jin again. So why now? Why come back? Because you're not safe, Jin said. And because Elise's death isn't just about her. It's about what she uncovered. He nodded toward the desk. Look in the second drawer. Taehyung crossed the room, his hands trembling as he pulled it open. Inside lay a stack of old Polaroids, some faded, some marked with small notes in red ink. Each photo showed the same butterfly symbol, on sculptures, paintings, jewelry, even on concert backdrops. The same emblem, always hidden in plain sight. What is this? The curator's mark, Jin said. Everywhere they've reached. They control narratives, art, politics, even pop culture. Elise found proof they were embedding subliminal codes into global campaigns. That symbol means ownership. Taehyung stared at one photo, a close-up of a Paris fashion billboard. His own face smiled back, wearing the butterfly emblem in a ring on his finger. His stomach dropped. That photo was taken last year. Jin nodded grimly. You've been part of their exhibition since the beginning. The sound of footsteps echoed suddenly in the hallway. Jin moved fast, pulling Taehyung into the shadows behind the bookshelf. The apartment door creaked open. Two men in black entered, flashlights slicing through the dark. They moved with precision, silent, trained. Jin pressed a finger to his lips. Taehyung's breath came shallow and fast. The men scanned the room, one of them stopping near the desk. He picked up the Polaroids, examined them, then spoke into his earpiece. It's gone. He's already taken it. Jin mouthed, go. He gestured toward the window. They slipped out onto the narrow balcony, rain slick beneath their shoes. Below, the alley stretched like a black river. Without thinking, Taehyung jumped, landing hard but quiet. Jin followed, grimacing at the impact. They ran through the labyrinth of backstreets until they reached the riverbank. The city glittered faintly beyond the fog, indifferent to the chaos it hid. Panting, Taehyung turned to him. You've been hiding all this time. Why didn't you tell me? Tell us. I tried, Jin said, leaning against a stone wall. But every time I got close, someone disappeared. They erased memories, rewrote truths. Even now, there are things you don't remember, because they made sure you couldn't. Taehyung froze. What do you mean, don't remember? Jin met his eyes. Do you remember Elise from before Paris? He frowned, searching his mind. A flicker, a vague memory of a gallery, laughter, a scent like jasmine. Then nothing. No. They wiped it, Jin said softly. She wasn't a stranger. She was your friend. Maybe more. The words sliced through the cold night air. The ground beneath him seemed to tilt. He wanted to deny it, but deep inside, something cracked open, a haunting sense of loss without name or reason. Jin placed a hand on his shoulder. Listen. Elise's files are hidden in one last place, an exhibition that opens tomorrow. Their Butterfly Effect showcase at the Palais de Tokyo. That's where it ends. Taehyung's voice was low, trembling. And if we go? Then we finish what she started, Jin said. But once you see what's there, you'll never be the same. They stood in silence as the Seine shimmered under the ghostly glow of the city lights. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a damp calm that felt almost sacred. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimed, echoing through the hollow streets. Taehyung looked down at the reflection of the Eiffel Tower rippling in the water, then back at Jin. I don't care if I'm never the same, he said quietly. I just want the truth. Jin's expression softened, and for the first time, something like pride flickered in his eyes. Then tomorrow, Paris will finally wake up. And as dawn broke over the city, painting the sky in bruised shades of violet and gold, Kim Taehyung walked away from the river, no longer an idol escaping scandal, but a man walking toward the light that might destroy him. Midnight wrapped Paris in silence, broken only by the soft hum of the Seine and the occasional whisper of tires on wet pavement. The Musée d'Orsay loomed ahead, its grand clock glowing like a golden eye watching the city's secrets unfold. Taehyung stood across the street, hood pulled low, his reflection flickering in a puddle at his feet. He wasn't supposed to be there, his agency would have killed the story before it began, but curiosity had always been his most dangerous flaw. The envelope still burned in his pocket. He'd spent hours staring at it in his hotel room, turning it over and over like a talisman of something forbidden. Inside had been a single sheet of old parchment, a sketch of a butterfly with lines of text scrawled beneath it in French, Le Papillon ne meurt jamais, Illinois René dans l'ombre. The butterfly never dies, it is reborn in the shadows. He hadn't understood what it meant. But he knew where to go. A faint shadow moved near the museum's side entrance. The same woman from the rooftop stepped into the dim light, her eyes sharp, her movements cautious. You came, she said softly. That was either very brave or very foolish. Tell me who you are, Taehyung demanded. And what you know about Elise Laurent. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what Elise discovered before she died. Her voice trembled, but her eyes never left his. She was investigating a network of private collectors, people who trade in more than art. They trade influence, identities, legacies. You were one of their targets. Taehyung frowned. Targets? Why me? Because you're not just an artist or an idol, she said. You're a symbol. BTS, your existence, reshaped how billions see power, connection, culture. To them, that's dangerous. They wanted to use you to control that influence. Her words felt unreal, yet they resonated with a truth he couldn't explain. For years, he'd felt the unseen hands behind every decision, the sponsors, the deals, the silent expectations. But this sounded darker. She handed him a small flash drive. Elise found evidence, videos, documents, coded communications. But before she could release it, she was silenced. You were framed to divert attention. Thunder rolled in the distance, shaking the glass panes of the museum. Taehyung's breath quickened. Then why come to me? Because you're the only one who can finish what she started. The words hung in the air, heavier than the storm. He opened his mouth to respond, but suddenly a sharp sound, like a gunshot, cracked through the night. The woman's eyes widened, and she stumbled forward, clutching her shoulder. Run, she gasped. They found us. Another shot shattered the museum window behind them. Taehyung grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the nearest alley. Rain lashed their faces as they sprinted through the narrow streets, his pulse pounding like a war drum. Behind them, footsteps echoed, methodical and close. Whoever was chasing them wasn't improvising, they were trained. They ducked into an abandoned cafe, breath ragged, clothes soaked through. Taehyung pressed his back against the wall, every sense heightened. "Who are they?" he whispered. "The ones Elise feared most," she said through clenched teeth, blood seeping through her coat. "They call themselves the curators. They decide which truths the world gets to see." Outside, the rain slowed, but the tension didn't. The city had never felt so hostile. Taehyung tore a piece of cloth from his sleeve and pressed it against her wound. "You need a hospital." She shook her head weakly. "No hospitals. They'll find me there." "You have to go to her apartment. Rue Saint-Honoré, number 17. The rest of the evidence is there. Promise me you'll find it." He hesitated, watching her eyes fade under the dim light. "Why me?" he asked again, desperate. A faint smile touched her lips. "Because Elise believed you were more than an idol. She believed you were real." Her hand fell away, limp. For a long moment, Taehyung sat in silence, the sound of dripping rain filling the space where her breathing had been. Outside, the Eiffel Tower flickered through the mist, indifferent and beautiful. He rose slowly, his hands trembling. The flash drive was still in his pocket, heavy with invisible weight. When he stepped outside, the city seemed to hold its breath. As he walked toward Rue Saint-Honoré, flashes of his past surfaced unbidden, the roaring crowds, the confessions of love, the endless demands for perfection. Every smile he had given to the world now felt like a mask. Was he still Kim Taehyung, or had he become just another image, owned and traded by forces beyond his reach? The streets grew quieter as he approached the narrow lane. Old buildings leaned toward one another, their windows dark. Number 17 stood at the end, its door slightly ajar, as if waiting. He hesitated at the threshold. The faint scent of jasmine drifted through the air again. Inside, the apartment was filled with art, sketches pinned to walls, photographs scattered across the floor, strings of red connecting faces, places, and symbols. And there, in the center of it all, a painting of a butterfly in gold leaf, wings outstretched as if to escape the canvas. Taehyung stepped closer, heart hammering. Beneath the frame, written in delicate handwriting, was a name he recognized instantly, his own. The air seemed to thicken. Somewhere outside, a clock chimed 1. And then, from the shadows behind him, a voice spoke softly, familiar, haunting, and filled with something that sounded like regret. "You shouldn't have come here, Taehyung." The voice belonged to someone he thought he'd never see again. The rain had not stopped by morning. It drummed against the window of the hotel costs like a relentless pulse, steady and cold, echoing the rhythm of Taehyung's unease. He hadn't slept. The night had been consumed by flashes of red, sirens, and that cryptic message still glowing on his phone: "You can't leave Paris until the truth is found." He stood before the mirror, staring at his reflection. The man staring back looked almost unfamiliar. His eyes were rimmed with sleepless shadows, his lips pressed into a line that hinted at both defiance and fear. Somewhere beneath that composed surface, a storm was gathering. Myra entered quietly, carrying a tray of untouched breakfast. "The police want to speak with you again," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "They've identified the woman." Taehyung turned sharply. "Who is she?" "A local art historian. Name's Elise Laurent. She worked with the Louvre on private acquisitions." Myra hesitated before continuing. "They found your name in her appointment book. She was supposed to meet you last night, after the exhibition." The words hit him like ice. "That's impossible. I've never met her." Myra's eyes softened, uncertain whether to believe him or not. "They'll ask why she had your name. And there's more. Someone leaked the footage from the docs. You're all over the news, Ty. They are calling it the Paris incident." He could feel the walls closing in. Fame had always been a double-edged sword, but never had its blade felt this close to his throat. "Cancel everything," he said, his voice low. "Interviews, meetings, shoots. I want silence." Myra hesitated. "And the fans?" The fans will believe what they want, he murmured, turning back toward the window. They always do. Below, Paris moved on with its usual rhythm, cars honking, people laughing under umbrellas, life continuing as if the night before had been just another story in a city built on stories. But for Taehyung, the world had tilted off its axis. He could still see the shape of the woman's body on the cobblestones, the way her hair had fan-like spilled ink, the faint scent of jasmine clinging to the air. Later that day, the interrogation began. The police station was dimly lit, its fluorescent lights humming softly. Across from him sat Captain Dufresne, a man whose patience was as sharp as his gaze. "Mr. Kim," he began, folding his hands. "You were seen near the scene moments after the incident. Yet, you claim not to know the victim." "That's the truth," Taehyung replied calmly, though every nerve in his body screamed. "Then perhaps you can explain why Miss Laurent received an email from your agency 3 days ago confirming your meeting." Taehyung blinked. "That's not possible." Dufresne slid a printed email across the table. The header bore his management company's logo, and at the bottom, a digital signature that was unmistakably his. His throat tightened. Someone had forged it perfectly. The captain leaned forward. "Paris adores its mysteries, Mr. Kim. But this one might devour you if you're not careful." After hours of questioning, he was finally released. No charges yet, just suspicion heavy enough to crush. Myra waited outside, pacing. "What did they say?" "That I might be the story they've been waiting for," he said bitterly. That night, unable to sleep, he wandered through the hotel's empty corridors until he reached the rooftop terrace. The city spread below him, glittering under a veil of rain. From up here, the chaos looked almost beautiful. He leaned on the railing, closing his eyes, and tried to remember what it felt like to be ordinary, to walk through a crowd unnoticed, to breathe without the weight of expectation. Then, faintly, he heard footsteps. "Mr. Kim." He turned. A woman stood a few feet away, her black coat soaked, her expression unreadable. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone who knows why Elise Laurent wanted to meet you," she said softly. "And why she had to die." The wind cut through the air, sharp as the tension between them. "You're lying," Taehyung said, though his pulse betrayed him. The woman stepped closer, her eyes catching the city's light. "You think fame only brings fans and fortune," she whispered. "You have no idea what kind of power follows your name." Before he could respond, she pressed a small envelope into his hand. "If you want to know the truth," she said, her voice trembling, "go to the Musée d'Orsay at midnight. Don't bring anyone." And just like that, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving only the sound of rain and the faint scent of jasmine, the same as the woman by the river. Taehyung stood frozen, the envelope heavy in his palm. The sound of the city below faded, replaced by the echo of her words. Somewhere beneath the glamour and chaos of Paris, a secret pulsed, one tied not just to the woman's death, but to his very existence. He looked down at his hand. On the flap of the envelope, a symbol was drawn in ink, a single, delicate butterfly. For the first time since he'd arrived in Paris, Kim Taehyung felt for not of the cameras or the headlines, but of the truth waiting to be uncovered beneath the city of light. When Kim Taehyung's sudden appearance in Paris sparks chaos, mystery, and devotion, the city of lights becomes the stage for a story that blurs fame and fate. The scream pierced through the Parisian night before anyone saw who had fallen. Cameras flashed like lightning against the stormy sky, and in the center of it all, Kim Taehyung stood frozen, his breath trembling in the cold air, his gloved hands stained with something dark under the flicker of neon. "Taehyung, move," his bodyguard shouted, but his eyes were locked on the figure sprawled near the Seine, a faint reflection of his own face shimmering on the water's restless surface. The night had started with glamour, a secret appearance at a high-profile art exhibition in Le Marais, whispered among those who believed they could see the future of art and culture in one man's presence. The room had smelled of expensive wine and lilies, a symphony of murmurs blending languages from every corner of the world. Yet, for Taehyung, the noise had always sounded distant, as if fame had built an invisible wall between his heartbeat and the rest of the world. Now, as sirens wailed in the distance, he felt the city close in on him like a breathing creature, alive, watching, and hungry. The flash of cameras no longer felt celebratory, it was accusatory. Somewhere in that chaos, A voice whispered in French, "L'idole est tombé, the idol has fallen." He didn't know if they were talking about him or the body by the river. Taehyung's assistant, Myra, pushed through the crowd, her hands trembling as she reached him. "We need to go now, Tae. They'll twist this before morning." Her voice cracked, half command, half plea. She had been with him long enough to know the power of a single image, the way the world could build or break someone with just one headline, but Taehyung didn't move. His gaze followed the trail of red dissolving into the river's silver ripples. "Who was she?" he asked quietly. Myra hesitated. "No one knows yet. The police are coming." The moment felt unreal, almost cinematic, as if Paris itself had decided to trap him in one of its tragic love stories. The scent of rain mixed with the faint sweetness of perfume lingering in the air. Somewhere behind the police tape, fans still screamed his name, some in awe, others in confusion. The contrast between adoration and fear was almost unbearable. As they were hurried into the waiting black car, Taehyung leaned against the cold glass, his reflection ghost-like against the blur of city lights. Paris, the city that once inspired him, now felt like a labyrinth of secrets waiting to swallow him whole. He remembered the letter slipped into his jacket pocket earlier that evening, no sender, no signature, only one line written in looping handwriting: "Your fame hides more than you think." In that instant, something inside him shifted. The man who had once found meaning in the cheers of millions began to question what was left of his own voice beneath the noise. He thought of his members back home, how each of them had warned him about disappearing from the radar, about chasing solitude in a city built for illusions. But solitude was the only thing that still felt real. The car turned a corner, and the Eiffel Tower appeared in the rain-streaked window, shimmering gold against the black sky. For most people, it was a symbol of love. For Taehyung, tonight, it was a witness, a silent observer of the fall of an idol. When they arrived at the hotel, the lobby was already flooded with paparazzi and whispers. "He was there," someone hissed in French. "He saw everything." Myra guided him to the elevator, shielding him with her coat. Inside the mirrored walls, Taehyung looked at himself, immaculate suit, eyes hollow, the reflection of a man the world adored but no longer understood. As the elevator rose, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message flashed on the screen: "You can't leave Paris until the truth is found." For the first time that night, Taehyung smiled, not out of amusement, but recognition. He wasn't the only one who knew that fame came with shadows. Paris had become his stage once again, but this time, the script was no longer in his control, and somewhere beyond the city's glittering lights, a secret waited, one that would test not just the weight of his name, but the depth of his soul.